All right, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Enough to Keep Going podcast. I am your host, DBQ Hams. It is the week of November 6th. We are rolling into the fall and winter release schedule. Lots of big games, lots of small stuff, but also, maybe it is just me, but I am feeling a little bit of malaise. But I am here to talk about that with some wonderful gentlemen who might actually snap me out of it. Towmaster, how are you, Towmaster?
I'm doing okay.
Excellent.
Glad you're back.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Hamp, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Let's roll into the holiday games.
Right? Yes. It feels like there should be more, or maybe I'm just not as excited for what is there than I usually am. But Hamp, I want to start with you because you have been playing the big game of the last week or two, which is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. And here's my question. On the agenda, you have it listed for 3 different platforms. So are you playing on 3 platforms? And if so, how is there any difference? And I guess the better question is, thank you for experimenting on all these platforms, but talk us through your experience with Modern Warfare 2, the 2022 edition of it.
Yeah, I guess I decided this time around not mess. So when I fell down the hill, hook, line, and sinker with Black Ops Cold War, I eventually got around to playing all 3 platforms because I own the hardware and I just wanted to, play on the different systems. But, over the course of time in my kind of falling back in love with COD, I wound up going to those systems, would have things planned to play, but would wind up wanting to play more Black Ops Cold War. And so this time I just decided to just do it out of the gate and get it over with. There are not a ton of differences. I mistakenly, admittedly, grabbed the PlayStation 5 version as my number 2 because I was thinking that I would experience that I would get the weapon XP bonus bump. But of course you don't get that unless you're actually partied up with people on the PlayStation 5, which I think if I put some effort into it, I could easily put that together. But I don't put any effort into it. So, there's not a huge amount of difference. I play those games different places and kind of in different ways and modes. So, I spend time on the consoles playing with mouse and keyboard. Interestingly enough, this year, in the UI, you now see when people are on mouse and keyboard versus when they're on controller. And you see it right in front. I think you could always see that if you would if you would porpoise down like a couple of levels into the UI and look at somebody's user profile.
Yeah, I remember that in Cold War.
Yeah, but now they put it right on the kind of the gathering scene, right, as everybody kind of marshals up in the lobby and gets ready to go. It doesn't appear like you're forced or grouped into people who are on mouse and keyboard versus controller. They are intermixed, but it just presents it. I see a lot more players on PC in this version than I saw in Black Ops Cold War and in Modern Warfare. And in fact, in Black Ops Cold War and Modern Warfare, even though crossplay was enabled as a PC gamer, I would typically go into a lobby and I would be like the only PC gamer. Sometimes maybe there was one other person. But now, I've gone into matches where like everyone on my team was on PC, or where, 4 out of 6 people on my team were PC. And now you see them that they are on both Battle.net and Steam. So my guess is that the series returning to Steam is what is the cause for the big bump. We're going to talk about the Call of Duty numbers a little bit later, and it is clear that there are just a lot more people playing in general, but there's probably a ton more people playing on PC as well. So this version has some problems. It has some growing pains. I think it is in general less complete than previous versions have been. It's definitely less complete than Black Ops Cold War. If you use the rubric and the standard of, gamers have the expectation that a sequel arrives on day one with everything that previous versions have had. This one doesn't. They've pulled ping away, which has become a hugely important aspect of Call of Duty. I don't think Vanguard had a ping system, which maybe makes sense because, it's World War II. But that was a painful thing to do without after having it. I think it was in both Modern Warfare and Black Ops Cold War. It was definitely in Black Ops Cold War. And so obviously I was really looking forward to that being back this year. But it's been pulled away because there was apparently a wall hack that came along with this year's version. So they disabled it pretty quickly. Although I hear that they re-enabled it on November 4th. I think I've played so much at this point already that my muscle memory doesn't allow me to reach for, where I normally have it configured, which is on the middle mouse button. There's not emotes. So as you kind of gather up and kind of get ready to go right as the match starts, you don't have emotes to, signal hand waves to your teammates or whatever, which isn't a big deal, but it's just, it's content that's not there.
That's actually kind of surprising because that's one of them kind of areas where they monetize is, right?
Well, there's no monetization going on right now because the store's not open. And that kind of makes sense because, I assume that it's going to launch with season 1, right? So I can understand why there wouldn't be monetization there. It's weird that people who pre-ordered the version and got access to the campaign, the 2 weeks earlier or whatever, that they were given XP tokens to use to accelerate their gaining of XP. But if you didn't buy the pre-order version, there's no way to get XP tokens right now. And in fact, I'm pretty certain that the way it's worked before, it seems like XP tokens carried over. And so I have 38 XP tokens in Black Ops Cold War that I'm pretty sure if I boot up Modern Warfare 2019, I can see those tokens. But I'm pretty sure they definitely carried over between Black Ops Cold War and Vanguard. But they appear to not be present, in Modern Warfare 2, which is a little bothersome, right? They're things that you've earned, in some cases things that you've kind of sort of paid for, because I got some of them from the Battle Pass. But they're not accessible, to use to accelerate my XP. Which brings me to another point, Modern Warfare 2 is hecka grindy. It is, I think part of it is a little bit of revisionist history on my part, where I played so much Black Ops Cold War, which was kind of my romanticized, return to CoD. And I think I just forgot how grindy it was, in kind of the first 2 months or so. Because you buy it, with a large part, you unlock everything, right? By the time season 1 starts, I will probably, I take that back, because there's a ton of new additional stuff this year, but I will probably have unlocked a significant amount, right? And it may feel less grindy. In Black Ops Cold War, by partway through season 1, I'd probably unlocked just about everything. And then it was just a matter of earning prestige and earning camos for to get to diamond and things of that nature. Which I'm not a diamond player. I never got that. But my point was, at a certain point, I had unlocked all of the attachments for all the weapons, and it wasn't until a new weapon was introduced that I really had to grind to unlock those things. But this Modern Warfare 2 So they've introduced a new thing called weapons platforms. And so there are things that are transferable and cross-usable across multiple categories of weapons. And so of keynote, let's say battle rifles and marksman rifles, which seem like incredibly similar categories, but for some reason they're different. But as far as I can tell, if you unlock optics in battle rifles, some of those optics may be usable on different weapons platforms in the marksman rifle category. So there's that. And so at the end of the day, and so since that's the case, which I think is really awesome and neat, because what it means is if you have leveled up a battle rifle and then you go and equip a new marksman rifle, for the first couple of levels, the optics won't be available, but once you unlock optics on that on that weapon, you may have 4 or 5 optics that are now suddenly available because you've already earned them on the battle rifle. So that's neat. But to keep people engaged, apparently, there's like 30 something optics, right, on some battle rifles, where in Black Ops Cold War there were a maximum of 12, right, on every weapon. So there are some things that are neat ideas and concepts that contribute to making the game like hugely grindy. Camos this year are, I'm on the borderline of saying atrocious, but there's like 216 camos for weapons, 196, right? And
so grindy?
Yeah, yeah. Not only grindy, but then there's the grindiness I think I can deal with. The thing that makes it particularly egregious is that on top of being grindy, the UI this year is particularly horrible. Sorry, just give me
sure,
give me
no
give me
problem.
1 second, sorry.
Tao, have you dove into Modern Warfare 2 at all? Or do you have plans to? I know you end up picking up COD at some point in time, most seasons.
Yeah, no, I haven't bought it yet, but I probably will, most likely. I'll kind of just wait for
holding off for
Warzone 2.
Warzone 2, which is free coming up in another week or two. So
yeah, next week, I believe.
I think you're right. Yep. Okay, Hamp. So you are talking about the UI and some of the problematic features here.
So yeah, the UI is just. I'm really trying to skirt away from saying poorly designed.
So let me ask. Can I ask a question? How is the UI different than the 2019 game? Right, the last Sledgehammer game. Or
Infinity Ward, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
So part of the problem with the UI is mass propagation, right? So when you go to 216 camos, and then you choose to lay out those 260 camos, and it may not be 216. It's like it's a 3-digit number. It's like 186 or 199 or something like that, or 216. But when you choose to lay them out in 2 horizontal rows at the bottom of the screen, and then as you unlock them, they don't unlock in order. So on some weapons, I have 10 camos unlocked. First of all, for several days, I have not known that I've had 10 camos unlocked for that weapon, because they're all the way to the right, right? And so it only displays something like 12, I don't know, maybe let's call it, 8 to 12 rows top and bottom, right? 8 to 12 tiles top and bottom. So, right, you're talking about like 16 camos, right? Out of like 199. So I had 10. So I thought I only had like 1 or 2 unlocked that I can see on that screen. But the 10th one, right, was like several screen scrolls to the right. Right. And then so at one point I had 9 unlocked, and like the night, and it's a really nice camo, right? It's like a rainbow like camo, right? So there's 9 unlocked, and then I go back into that weapon to like reconfigure some attachments, and I looked at the camos and it's like 10. So I'm like, okay, at this point I now have to, and the tiles are incredibly subdued. Like they're not like really super bright colors that pop out at you. Like I literally have to not look at like the other 80% of the screen and like lean in and look at those 2 tiles to tell which ones are illuminated, showing that I've unlocked them. Like, looking specifically at where the little padlock symbol is in some cases. So when I unlock the 10th one, I'm like, now I have to scroll through 199 camos to find the one additional one that I've locked. And there have been times, I mean, it's so bad, there have been times that I've scrolled all the way to the right, and like the further to the right that you scroll, the more and more words you get, right, that you've missed it, right? And you're gonna have to loop back and like, what are we doing here? Like, why in the world do these things not simply unlock in order? Like it makes no sense. So, that's some of the problems. Some of the other problems are that they have just kind of tried to reorganize and reorient the information, the design intent of which somewhat makes sense. Like they've taken, so what used to be called the barracks, which is where you used to arm like all the stuff that comes on, they used to call it your COD identity screen, right? All that has like your emblem and your calling cards and all that kind of thing. those are all like in a sub menu now. But the problem with the sub menu, which shows up in the upper right hand corner of your screen, is there's two porpoise levels down to it, right? So there's going to the sub menu, and then one of the icons in the sub menu is like an 8-pip menu. It's like 8 little squares, right? And so when you click on that, then that explodes up into another sub menu, right? And so all of which has resulted in like getting people into, and this is problematic when you have crossplay, right? If everybody's on PC, I think it's less of a problem because you can coordinate everything through Discord, right? But when you have people coming in from multiple platforms, and even with everyone on Discord, it was still a little problematic for us, like just getting everyone into a in-game party. With then on top of that, you have Activision. So we like literally there were like 5 or 10 minutes of cross talking of somebody trying to tell somebody in our party what their ID was, and they were telling them their BattleNet ID. And then he was like, "Oh, you keep coming up as not found. You keep coming up as not found." And I was like, "Are you sure that's your BattleNet ID? You need your Activision ID, right?" So there's that, and the Activision ID sequence number is like a 7-digit number, right? So you're trying to tell somebody 7 digits, expecting them to memorize it as they're typing. Like it's just. There are some quality of life things. I mean, there are things that are incomplete in the game, but the quality of life things, I think, are the things that causes the biggest problem. Now, for me personally, as a person who plays by myself more than in a large party, those things are kind of survivable and manageable, but they are still kind of a pain in the butt. And I think the last thing I'll mention, there's tons of other stuff. The maps this year. I think I've definitely settled into, I just overall, after being kind of a Black Ops hater over the years, I'm really kind of settling into the notion that, hey, it seems like I prefer the Treyarch approach to multiplayer UI and multiplayer level design. The problem with the maps this year there are no small maps. So there's nothing that in my mind equates to a CQB map or a close quarters battle map. There's nothing like a Rust. There's nothing like a Kill House. There's nothing like Container. And so
what was the border crossing one that we played during the beta, the third person one? That felt like a smaller map compared to some of the other ones. Is that still out there?
It's still out there. I don't think it's a smaller map. I think it's more constrained in movement because once you get up on top of a bus, there are some incredibly long sniper lines on that map. And basically people can get up on top of vehicles, kind of like if you remember Garrison from Black Ops Cold War, that kind of warehouse with there's a couple tanks in it, and there's an underground there's a couple underground passages, one that runs underneath the tank, one that runs underneath some of the hallways. It's kind of like that in terms of those sniper lines. But the big problem to me is, with those maps, so depending on how you play, if you arm the pre-packaged loadouts, right, you will get access to some perks before you really unlock them. And so if you use, say, the Assault pre-packaged loadout, pre-configured loadout, you do get access to Overkill, which lets you run around with what used to be called Lawbreaker on Black Ops Cold War, which is what lets you run around with 2 primary weapons, right? Primary weapons are the weapons where obviously the big guns are, whereas the secondary weapons are typically like pistol, shotgun, launcher, and melee, right? So they're much less effective. But if you, like I do, I don't spend a lot of time messing with the pre-configured loadouts. I just want to manage my own loadout, so I don't bother playing with those. So you don't unlock Overkill for a very long time. That's a problem in that the maps this year are not. They're not kind of big, little, small, right? Or big, medium, small, right? All of the maps are kind of this hybrid type of map where there's no real CQB close quarters maps. There are CQB areas, right? There are big, long, wide open maps with huge sniper lines, and then there's buildings dotted throughout them. So you can run inside the building and get into a CQB environment, but in order to get into a building from where you spawn, you typically have to run across some fairly wide open sniper lines, right? Which it's manageable and doable, right? But it just in some ways that's good that it kind of has changed kind of that geometric dynamic of the battle. But what it means is that I think people are going to be driven to almost arming overkill as a perk almost all of the time, which kind of defeats the purpose of the perk system, right? And encourage you, like, you're just never going to want to really arm a submachine gun or a shotgun as your primary weapon. You need to, go with overkill, right, and use those and have 2 primary slots and put them in one of the 2 slots so that you can have a battle rifle, a marksman, or a sniper as your other rifle. Sniper rifles are still incredibly broken in this game. You still get people running around within like 10 meters of a person, quickly raising scope to eye and like one-shotting a person, which just makes no sense. So, there are some problems in the game. Some of the historic ones I can be forgiving of. The quality of life things to me are the things that need to really come along. It looks like it has bones and DNA for the 2-year haul that this is going to have to do, since there's not going to be a 2023 Call of Duty, which may be what kind of drove the overstocking to nausea on some of the things. But typically in the past with a Call of Duty, I'm a map guy, right? Of all of the content that comes as season passes, battle passes, skins, and all that other kind of stuff are nice, but I really want like the occasional new map. It doesn't need to be a ton, but it just needs to be a couple each season to go into the rotation, right? That need and demand signal from me for more maps, right, is really hypercritical now. So we'll just see how it goes.
Thanks for the analysis there, Tao. Any follow-up? You've got some experience and probably some questions here.
Yeah, I had. How many did you play? A lot of the different modes, or were you just purely like deathmatch, team deathmatch modes?
This year, so in Black Ops Cold War, I quickly fell off of by the way, missing content, there's also no hardcore mode right now. So in Black Ops Cold War, I quickly, you guys, remember the conversations, I quickly fell off of playing the objective style game modes because people are only concerned about their KD, and you will see people on Kill Confirmed still to this day. I was in a match the other day, the match was 60-something to 20. And I was like, you guys are not picking up any of the dog tags. I'm like, come on. So, but this year, because of the map geometry, I find that I kind of have to, because depending on what kind of loadout you go with into a map, and I should say, now, I can't remember exactly what the sequence was where you pick your loadout in Black Ops Cold War, but now at least you don't pick your loadout until you're on a map. Like I want to say in Black Ops Cold War, maybe you picked your loadout and then you would see what map you were on, and then I'd have to like in the when I'm on the battlefield, but in the 10-second countdown or whatever, I would have to quickly switch my loadout because I had a bad weapons mix. But now you get kind of a long kind of pre-roll, with you on the helicopter or in the truck or whatever, and you have an opportunity. It actually brings the loadout UI kind of as an overlay onto that screen, so again what map you're on. So you could pick a loadout that might be more appropriately tailored to a given map. Although, like I said, I don't know that there is a loadout that's tailored to a map other than the type of loadout that you need for every map, because the way they're configured right now. But yeah, this year I'm playing more domination and hardcore, because you kind of have to, and that's also probably a part of the grindiness of the game too, right? It's just cycling, TDM, FFA, and Kill Confirmed doesn't do a lot for you when you have to grind through 199 camos. But I will also, and then I'll also mention, right, the other thing that helps with is, so again, I'm trying to, one of my alpha loadout is my submachine gun, right? So the nice thing about domination and what's the other one? What did I just say? And Hardpoint. The thing about Domination and Hardpoint is, first of all, they force a lot of people into some of those CQB areas, because if a Domination point is in a CQB area or the Hardpoint is in a CQB area inside a building, then it forces those types of engagements. And the second thing is, it kind of makes a mini CQB area regardless, even when it's out in the open, because it forces people into a very close quarters battle. So it does really give you kind of a more manageable way to force targets into submachine gun range, right? So whereas on TDM, I spent a lot of time like popping my head out a window, seeing some guy way across like the battlefield and trying to hit him with the submachine gun. So at least Domination and Hardpoint kind of force people into closer range.
So with all the layers, but the enjoyment that you sound like you're having, does it feel like, is this going to be in your daily, weekly rotation, or is this something that you kind of check in on and see how, once the season starts, what it looks like?
Yeah, I'm probably I'm probably
way to take one
addicted
for the team and try
point.
out something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I'm probably this. I like one of the reasons I'm grinding so hard is I'm level 38 now, right? And there's 55 levels this year. There is no prestige available in preseason, which is also missing content, but I don't know if it's missing content, but it's a bit bothersome. Because at least I could have earned like one prestige key before the season started. But I'm pushing hard because the Halo Infinite winter update drops right at the end of this week, and so I'm trying to get as far as I can down the progression path on Modern Warfare 2 before that happens. But yeah, we're probably looking at a long year of just Modern Warfare 2 and Halo Infinite for me for a big chunk of time.
Although looking at the release calendar, that might seem very realistic, because I don't know that there's a whole lot of other big titles that are within what your normal genre range is over the course of the next month or two.
Yeah, it's a thing that I kind of keep saying. It's interesting in the gaming community conversation right now. We get a lot of, well, this game is bad, this game's broken, this game, well, blah blah blah, and I'm like, okay, but if you're a PvP multiplayer first person shooter person, what else are you playing, right? Because designs of a lot of the the games that are out there that are successful are the two that I've mentioned. You could argue whether they're successful or not, but then your options are Apex, Overwatch, which DBQ I noticed you've been playing a lot of. And I'm like, those games have styles and designs that are significantly different, right, than Call of Duty and Halo Infinite. And so they may not be in your wheelhouse. There's Destiny 2, but I don't play Destiny 2 PvP. So, it kind of gets around to, you can say whatever you want to say about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and, and Halo Infinite, but I'm like, well, what else are you playing? There aren't a lot of options with no Battlefield out this year. And this COD's got to stick around for 2 years, right, on top of that.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Speaking of sticking around for a number of years, Tao, you have been playing a game that not only is one of the best-selling of all time, but has been around for almost a decade at this point. How did you stumble back into or rediscover GTA 5?
It was basically because of my friend. So we've been playing a lot of Warzone lately, and just kind of a lot of shooters or like Battle Royale games, Fortnite and stuff like that.
So you're playing GTA Online, or are you playing 5 in the story?
I'm playing both, which I probably should have put in there. So, but we've been playing a lot of shooters, so he was getting a little burnt out of them. So he was like, "Oh, let's try something else. Let's play something else." And he mentioned GTA 5. I was like, "Well, I got an Xbox." And it's not cross-platform, surprisingly, which I'm kind of surprised that they haven't done that yet. But I guess they're not going to
be the number 3 selling game of all time with being cross-platform. Come on,
not. Yeah. So I was like, all right, let me see. It's only $15 on Steam, so I was like, all right, I'll pick it up for PC. And I've seen a lot of mods too that are kind of cool that I could play around with, on PC. So picked it up, and we've only played a couple times so far on GTA Online, on the online side. And I was like, well, let me jump back at the story. It's been a while since I played the story. I bought it back on 360, and I bought it on the original Xbox One, and then I never got I don't know if I think you had to pay for the upgrade, right, on the Series X.
Yes, there was, and even on the PlayStation 5, there was a window of time where you could get GTA Online for free, but the actual game upgrade for PS5 was like $10. So yeah, I mean, they're gonna get your money because they know you're gonna pay for it. So
yeah, so I mean, I just picked it up. I was like, I'll just pick it up. So yeah, I jumped back in the story again because, like I said, I haven't played it so long. And I guess because I haven't played what was the Western one, Red Dead, and it's just some of the other games like that. It's been a while since I played any kind of like GTA or any kind of Rockstar game, and they're just the world that they can create, especially in GTA 5. It's just there's just the little things like people walking on the street, they're just talking to each other, or little things like you'll see, people driving there. I was just standing there. I forgot. I think I had to go away from the keyboard. I came back. I was doing something before I start playing again. And I was looking at the street. I was looking at the like a 4-way stop or a stoplight. You see the cars going, and then the guy they're turning, and then the couple guys or like one or two like hit the they'll hit the curb, they'll curb it. It's just something. Those are just those little things like that happen. And just kind of the comments. Like I haven't. There's some repeat things here and there, but for the most part, it's like it almost seems like it's always original like speech or like the people, what people are saying that's going on in the world. So it's just like I just kind of appreciate that level of detail that the Rockstar can put into these games. So I'm starting to go through the story again. I've never beat it. I haven't beat any GTAs ever. So I want to try to do this one, and I think if I remember correctly, this is one of the shorter ones than of all the other GTAs. I think. As far as like story, like it's not like going to be like 30 or 40 hours. I'm pretty sure it was probably under 20, if not around there. If you don't do all the side missions, obviously there's a ton to do. But if you just go straight to the story, kind of like Skyrim, or any kind of Elder Scrolls, if you just follow the story, it's actually pretty short. So I want to try to do that and kind of try to hopefully beat them. Especially since now GTA 5, you don't start like all the way back where you have to like redo a whole mission. Like it just starts you like right at the mission. You don't have to like drive back like. For like 5 minutes, like in GTA 4 and some of the older ones.
Yeah, like in all of the other GTAs where you,
yeah, it was really annoying.
Lose 20 minutes of time just because you failed a mission. Yeah,
and the other thing too, which I think I did this a little bit on the Xbox One. I'm just playing in first person mode. At least when I'm on foot. In the car, I still sometimes I'll play first person, but it's a little bit easier if you're kind of that third person mode when you're driving and stuff. So, but at least when I'm on foot, I'll do the first person mode.
Yeah, and that was an addition that came when it came to at the time next generation consoles when it came to Xbox One and PlayStation 4. So it has been on next generation consoles at this point. It's been on 3 generations of consoles. So yeah. But yes, that was the first person mode was one of those kind of touted additions.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing too, why everything kind of seems a little bit like more, I don't want to say real, but just kind of seems like more, just the world around you, because you're doing that first person mode instead of the third person like you used to before. And then so far on the GTA Online side, like I said, we don't do it a couple times, but since I do have my my Prime membership, you get the Prime or the Twitch Prime or whatever they call it now. I don't know what they call it, but they're always doing like you get like $1 million or $2 million or $500,000 like bump or money. So I've been doing that. I was able to get a pretty decent apartment in the game, so at least I start off with that. So now I just kind of we'll probably just go through because I guess what we're trying to look for is like a co-op game. And even though this is GTA Online, we can do PvP stuff, but you can actually just do like co-op stuff, which is kind of nice. It's like some kind of co-op mission. Like we did one where it was just like, you have to pick up this, it's like a Winnebago or some kind of RV from these like drug dealers or something, and bring it to another place. So something simple, kind of simple, but there's obviously all these guys you have to take out and all this other stuff. So it was just kind of cool, just kind of do something like co-op-y. So it's kind of nice.
Nice. When I picked up GTA Online for PlayStation 5, it started me in a bunker. Did you get an option of a bunker, or did you? And that may be like whatever the add-on was for the platform piece of having it on PlayStation, but that was a new piece of the online mode. Was here's your bunker and a couple $1 million to get you started type of thing.
No, I just like started out in the city, like the middle of the city. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I had started the other times I had played, was kind of drop down in the middle of stuff. So
was that something that you owned then, that bunker, or?
yeah, it was something that came. I mean, I think I don't even remember, but it was
Yeah.
it's attached to my PlayStation character
Oh, okay.
because you had a choice of locations of a bunker, and then kind of your focus of right. It was almost like a class based piece. Like, what were you going to do? Were you going to be a gun runner? Were you going to be you had a couple different classes that you could kind of choose from within online,
Yeah.
which was new from when I played it on Xbox One.
Are you playing Are you playing on mouse and keyboard or controller?
I'm playing a controller. Yeah, I can't.
And-
I can't do a game like that on mouse and keyboard. just not gonna happen.
Yeah, but you're playing in first person view, right? Which I mean, you play on mouse and keyboard on first person view games sometimes, right?
But I don't know if it's like a muscle memory thing in this case, because since I played it before and I originally played it, well, the 2 other times I played it were on a controller. I think it's just maybe that. But there's something with mouse and keyboard, like, and even sometimes on the shooters too, where and I don't want to say I'm like super aggressive, like I'm not like pounding my keyboards or my mouse, but it just feels like I'm gonna break my mouse when I'm doing all that movement and shooting and stuff. So, but I mean, obviously, like if I'm doing just like a straight up shooter, it's better for the aiming and stuff like that. But I don't know, it's just kind of weird. But also, like in GTA, you do go into that third person mode, like when you do like their cover system. So it's kind of goes back anyways to that third person anyways. So that kind of just works out. And driving is a lot easier for me, at least on a controller than on a keyboard or mouse.
Yeah, because driving in GTA is horrible. So I mean, it's incredibly rough on keyboard. And how are you liking the visuals on PC?
Oh, and yeah, it looks great. That's another thing too. I want to look at some of the mods because I know they had like the ones where it like bumps up the the graphics and the visuals and stuff like that. So and just kind of play around with that. But yeah, I mean, even without all that, it looks great. So I mean, you can kind of still tell it's kind of an older generation, but it still looks really really pretty. So
DBQ, do you know? Does it have a? I don't think I've played GTA 5 on PC. I have it on PS5, and I think that upgrade has a. I'm pretty sure it has some level of. I don't know. I played it at 4K 60, I guess, on PS5. So I don't know if it has a performance mode. Do you know on PC whether or not it does? Because I know Red Dead Redemption.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Does Red Dead have a performance and equality mode, or is it just a?
I don't know if it has a mode on PC. It's tunable so that so when I first bought it, it did not have DLSS, so it was capped at 60 frames per second, which is pretty angry about, just because this is supposed to be one of like the best looking, highest performing video games released of all time, and then I put it on PC and it like capped at 60 frames per second. I was particularly disgruntled. So, but they did put a DLSS patch in later that allowed it to run uncapped, and so I don't know if Gran Turismo. I don't know if GTA has anything like that on PC, or. So I was just curious.
It looks like on next gen. I mean, on Series and PlayStation 5, it does run at 60. Seems like there is. I don't know if it's an uncapped, but at least it can go up to 90, 120 or so.
Yeah, so it probably has. I assume using VRR on those consoles will let it go above 60.
Oh no, I was talking about that for PC. That it.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I think it's capped at 60 on the consoles.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
All right. Well, I am going to take a moment to say thank you, and then also to complain. So, I continue to play Madden 23. My friend and I have made our way through a first season, and we are now into our second season. Made it through a draft. So that is my chance to say thank you to the EA development team, because we did not get caught in the infinite draft loop that is a known bug that has existed since the launch of the game, and it is November. So we did not get caught in it, but it seems to be likely that it can happen at any point in time in an online franchise in the draft mode, that you can go through a draft and get to the preseason and it'll kick you back to the first round of the draft. And there is nothing that can be done to revert that file except start a new franchise. And for some people, they've experienced it in the first year. Some people, by the number of people on Reddit, it seems to happen more frequently in years 4 and 5. And once you get into year 8, it pretty much is going to happen 100%. So we made it through year 1 without it happening. You know, it is also very likely that by the time we get to year 4 and 5, we will probably want to try new teams. But the fact that it is a known issue, and they have even identified it as an issue, but it's not in a patch yet. So while Madden has patched some of the slider for interceptions now actually works after the October update, but for 2 months, not so much. So, so yes, we continue to play. I'm continued to be baffled by the fact of how many known issues there still are, and across modes here in Madden. That this is the franchise mode. That face of the franchise, basically, it doesn't allow you to progress after year 1. So, and then there are some season pass, season progression locks that happen in the Ultimate Team mode that reset some progress. So there are known bugs across multiple different modes in Madden 23. Yeah. So let's move on to some other headlines, because I don't know what else to say, except I still have a lot of fun playing it, but it is maddening how much there are known issues and known problems with Madden.
So this is, the one commentary I will make is, this is where I think, like, this is where we're just heading towards, the gaming apocalypse, right? Games, like, so here's the thing, right? Gamers, it's kind of weird, right? When you hear gamers talk about kind of the industry, there's, to a certain extent, a failure to understand and recognize that it's moving in certain directions because of them, right? Gamers constantly demand bigger, better, glitzier games, right? We get big AAA games, and then we still find things to complain about. And I'm not talking about us, but like, I'm just talking about, like, Gotham Knights comes out, and everybody flips out because it's 30 frames per second. And I'm not saying that that's not appropriate, but I'm saying is, you're now sending a consumer signal that tells everyone that, hey, it's 60 frames per second or bust. That means that's going to drive you to certain choices. If you're having a problem with hardware optimization, it means you need to delay the game, right? Which drives costs, because maybe you were going to release the game because you're out of budget, right? So, right, and so every game that comes out, people get more and more demanding. TLU Remake comes out, people aren't satisfied with the level of graphical updates that were made. Starfield comes out, right? Potentially the ultimate, right, expression of Todd Howard's career. People are dissatisfied with how it looks in pre-production, right? This is a pre-production game. This is a game that hasn't been released yet. So we do all of these things, and what people don't understand, and people say, hey, we deserve more for our money, blah, blah, blah. I get it. I understand. Understand that the demand signal you're sending the industry is that the bar is up here, right? So the industry keeps trying to achieve that. The Horizon Zero Dawns and Forbidden West, the Naughty Dog games, like the bar keeps getting ratcheted up and up and up and up. The end result of that is production costs increase, right? Games get bigger. As games get bigger, they get more complex. It's an inherent natural progression of software as a science, right? The bigger a software application is, the more complicated it becomes, the more complex it becomes, the more and more difficult it is to, and here's the thing, maintain, right? A game gets released, it comes out in the wild. Your choices that you constantly make are between new features or bugs, right? As a game gets more complex, it gets more and more difficult to isolate and lock down bugs. Bugs become inherently more complex. All of this is driving us now to what we're seeing, which is mass consolidation, right? I mean, we're not necessarily at mass, but we're as close to mass as you could get without being at mass consolidation, and it's probably going to go to mass consolidation, right? You're gonna get to the point where the only people who can afford to maintain these costs are people who are platform holders, right? Now you're going to drive towards the mass consolidation around Xbox, Nintendo, and Sony, and probably Xbox and Nintendo, right? Microsoft and Sony more so, because I don't know. At some point, Nintendo's going to get on the consolidation train, I think, to a certain extent. But you're basically going to lose the ability, as Activision lost, to be a big third-party publisher making these incredibly high production budget games and trying to sell them to a platform you don't own, right? It's just the economics of it. And you listen to Strauss Zelnick did an interview, I can't remember what it was on, but a couple of weeks ago, where he talked about, well, he hinted at, you'd have to kind of dig and pull some information together to understand why Activision got to where it got. It got to where it got because it was writing incredibly big checks, right? But its operating cash flow wasn't sufficient as you go by day to day to maintain that size of an operation, right? The operational cash flow that was required was huge, right? And so the basis that they sat on was basically a brittle capitalized foundation that an incredibly large business was sitting on top of, right? And so at any moment you could miss the ability to pay a bill, right? Basically, and the thing would topple over. And so that's what caused them to need to be bought by somebody like Microsoft, who has a much larger capital basis and holds a lot more cash and yada, 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 yada. Well, my point is, these are the types of dynamics that are going to drive the industry, and what we're seeing right with something like Madden is incredibly large, incredibly complex game. You play the game locally, you play the game out out online, lots of systems to maintain, gets more and more difficult to troubleshoot bugs. They go to having to make choices, right, of not fixing things, right, that really impact people. And the whole point of this rant is it's just going to get worse, right?
Well, no, and I think that it is well said. And as you slap my criticism back down, right? Like, no, I'm giving you a hard time, right? Like, I do want to say that it is a complex monster, and especially for annualized franchises, when you are building, and you know this, right? When you are building new stuff on top of old code, some of those legacy problems kind of carry over or get, mutate in different ways based on how that code is being adapted for the current software. And, that is very much a understandable reality in something like an annual sports franchise.
And all of what I said was not meant as an excuse why we should be satisfied with those things. It's just to represent the software characteristics that we are inherently pushing for, right? And just like you said, right, in the real pinch and the real problem is going to become with these annualized, because there's just not enough time in the turn, right, to get to finish the one thing and turn around and put the next thing out. And that's why really, I mean, like we've said on the show, right, things like Madden, things like Call of Duty, things like Battlefield, those things just need to go to a not annualized model, but just a continuous release, continuous deployment model, right? Where they incrementally put out stuff, kind of like they've partially done already. They just have stuck with the annualized, right, new title as part of it, and that they just need to get rid of, right? It just needs to become a thing like a Destiny 2, where you just stand on it and you live on it. You live in it for 5 years, and you just do 5 years of battle passes, right? I don't know that people will be dissatisfied with that, particularly if you figure out ways to mix in story-based content or change themes or whatever to make it kind of feel like a new game, but not necessarily, redeploy an entire new code base.
Yeah, I think you could definitely do that with a lot of the sports franchises. And all of that said, before we move into news stories, I complain, but I also was glad to pay for this game. That, the on-field play of Madden is the most complex, most satisfying that I've had for a number of seasons with Madden. And so there's a lot of good things to talk about, which also makes talking about the small things, they're more glaring when there's a lot of good that you experience.
Right. And as much as I knocked on Modern Warfare, like I bought the game 3 times, right? And I'm going to live in it for 2 years. And I think over time, I think this is probably going to be one of the better, right, Call of Duties. But I don't know. It's just a sign of the dynamic.
Okay, let's get into some news, because after the news, Tao, you and I have a game to talk about that I'm sure I'm going to be living in for a long time as well. But Hamp, you got some news here. We are headed into almost top of the hour here. So let's run through some news in terms of some Xbox and some other related news stories here. So take us through.
Yeah, so I'll make these really quick. So over on Eurogamer, an article, Xbox boss calls StarCraft seminal and says he's excited about getting to sit down with the teams. So this is mainly an article. This is kind of the same thing that we saw with Bethesda, right? Look, Phil's got a lot of toys now, right? Phil gets very excited whenever he's getting a new toy. He's like, I wonder what I could do with this. I wonder what I could do with that. And so we've kind of heard this theme before, where, he's ruminating, what could be done with StarCraft, what could be done with Crash Bandicoot, what could be done with, Guitar Hero, and a lot of these franchises, Tony Hawk, right, that, Activision has set by the wayside, has literally the entire company has been converted over to a relatively massive Call of Duty production pipeline. But, Phil's talking about, Spencer's talking about how he's looking forward to getting these things in their stable, and thinking about what can be done with them. One of the things that when the Bethesda acquisition came along, I was like, well, quite honestly, Blizzard has to a certain extent lost its mojo. And so it might be kind of exciting if some of those IPs were given to other development teams. One of the things that's exciting is, spin-offs, right, of IP, where they tried to do a StarCraft first-person shooter, which did not go well.
StarCraft Ghost, right? PlayStation 2, GameCube era. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but, Xbox, Microsoft Games has lots of great first-person shooter studios, third-person shooter studios.
Great for Perfect Dark. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, like StarCraft as a cover shooter, like in a Gears of War style, could be a fairly interesting concept. So, and also, stringing those studios together again, and I think this is one of the reasons, behind the Activision purchase, I don't think is just about King or just about Call of Duty, but I think it's also about that notion of how do you successfully string together multiple studios and what I just said, a massive production pipeline, and make it work and make it go and actually create like compelling games. Call of Duty WW2, in my opinion, was a great single player campaign, right? Then you follow that up with Treyarch with 2 years of Black Ops, right? Like really great, solid multiplayer. And then you pop in Modern Warfare 2 now, which kind of have the best of both worlds, right? To a certain extent, great single player campaign as well as solid multiplayer. So, taking the notion of some of those Blizzard IPs and kind of taking what will at that point be, I think, 30 or 33 studios, and doing those in pocket, like Great Scott, you could take 3 IPs and put 10 studios on each, right? Of course, they each have their own thing to do, but in pockets, you have potential to do things like that. So it's really very interesting.
I think the thing I appreciated about this news story is it's a change. It's a change of tone for the news cycle, right? Like for the last few weeks, we have heard negative news press around, or at least concerning news press around Activision Blizzard and Microsoft's acquisition of them in terms of regulatory agencies, and Sony coming out and talking about Call of Duty being a bad thing for gamers if it goes single platform. And here's Microsoft saying, you know what? There's a lot of interesting stuff. We could do some nice things for people if you just give us a chance.
Yeah.
So
the feeling I got from this article is that I'm still sure Spencer like goes to bed worried that the deal keeps him up at night. I think he said as much, but I think, you know, my feeling is as a business leader, as you go through crisis, there are points when you're thinking about that, but there are also points where you start. I mean, look, as a business leader, you're always putting your eyes further down range than everyone else is thinking about. And sometimes in crisis, you have to pull that length of vision back in to focus on things that are tactical because people need help. And they're so dire that you kind of have to get down to a lower level and manage than you would normally prefer. But you start taking part of your cognitive capacity, that 10% or whatever, and thinking downrange again, right? And thinking about the future and thinking of what the world looks like after the crisis, so that when the company comes out of it, you know, you're not unprepared, right, for starting to set the pattern and starting to set the path. And I think this is what we're seeing now. I think we're seeing where there's still a crisis, but I think the planning on how to contend with that crisis, which I'm sure is very detailed and very thorough, I think has kind of been laid out. And Spencer is now starting to think about, hey, what do we do when we get past this? And it's interesting, like you said, for all the wailing and gnashing of teeth, if this goes through, I think there are going to be some cool things that happen as a result of it. Just in the combining of power of the multi-trillion-dollar, right, Microsoft Corporation with all of the IPs that Activision has available. So it'll be interesting.
So, Hamp, let's jump to another Microsoft story here around Starfield and Redfall.
Yeah, so this slipped out. Was this one of the things that came out from? Yeah, Matt Booty. So obviously, Microsoft executives are making the rounds on the interview trail so that they can have their 5 minutes of Hollywood fame to make whatever they want to mention about the Microsoft ABK Activision ATVI M&A. So Matt Booty has also been going around doing a number of interviews. This was him on a podcast, I believe. But you know what he mentioned in this is that the Starfield date, which everything that we understand from the showcase is that everything that was shown would release no later than 12 months after that showcase. And we, you know, as I mentioned, the big critical question when a game gets delayed is always, okay, if you push it to next year, does that mean that they're just going to push it all the way to the holiday season of the next year? So that question was kind of answered with regards to Starfield and Redfall in that showcase by virtue of them saying, you know, no later than 12 months. Still questionable what the whole sequencing was going to be between Redfall and Starfield. My feeling has always been that Starfield was going to be like almost to the day 12 months after that showcase. And now we know that that Redfall is going to drop first, and then Starfield. I don't know that really has anything to do with them, you know, some super detailed like management of the Game Pass pipeline or anything like that. I just think it's, you know, where those teams are from a production perspective, and when it makes sense for them to come out. So he doesn't mention when. He just mentions that Redfall will be first and then Starfield thereafter. So
yeah, this was on podcast Friends Per Second. And appropriately so in PR speak, there are no dates given, just simply time frames, right? Like one is coming before the other. And by the nature of knowing when Starfield has set a target date in next November, correct? Right? Is that right? Or is it a May?
Yeah, Starfield should be May, June at the latest. Since they said the showcase, it was the next 12 months.
Yep. So that gives us an idea of where it's coming. Okay, let's move on here. We've got two other. I think we're going to throw these two together here, Hamp and Tao, in terms of Modern Warfare 2. I am very curious about beef jerky codes, but I'm more interested in the numbers of the releases and sales for Modern Warfare 2. So why don't you start us, Tao, with the sales numbers, and then once Hamp is back on the board, we can find out what happened with all these beef jerky codes.
All right. So let me start off first by saying grass is green, sky is blue. Call of Duty is the biggest selling game once again this year, at least for now, at least within this first weekend.
I thought there was a rhyme there. Like
I was going to try to, but I couldn't think of one.
No. Okay.
I tried.
I mean, yes, sky is blue, grass is green. Call of Duty sells a whole lot.
Yeah. But, I mean, so they came out with some numbers for the weekend for the 3 days that after it sold, or excuse me, after it came out. $800 million worldwide sell-through, which is actually sold. This is actually sold to the public, right? That's not, because there's like a different metric for like just to go in a store.
Different than on shelf, right? Like,
right.
Yep.
I think it's like sold to or something like that. I think is that term, I believe, when it's just going to the stores, which beats the previous big winner, which was Modern Warfare 3, oddly enough, back in 2011, which had 775 million within the first 5 day span. So, pretty good tick up there for the Call of Duty franchise. And then just in this article I got from IGN from Billy Gibbons, he just kind of goes through the general manager Johanna Ferries, I believe that's how you say it. Just kind of going through a statement saying, thank you for making, Call of Duty and Modern Warfare 2, a big success once again. Just kind of going through like how, even though they get, well, at least for IGN, they gave the campaign kind of a so-so rating, but they did praise the multiplayer, saying shifted enough focus where it feels distinct and different. And maybe Ham can say if that's true or not, since he's played it. I think he kind of talked about that. But I just want to throw that in there. Just a lot of times, myself and we all kind of go through with the negative stories, and not really negative stories, just kind of the downer stories. So I wanted to give a little good news, not just to Activision, but just kind of gaming in general. Just saying, like I said, it's not a big surprise, but still, yeah, it's nice to see Call of Duty still going strong. A lot of times I see like, and I guess it's kind of for like every big game that's out there, like, oh, the community's dying. Even kind of for Overwatch 2. I've been hearing rumblings that it's not doing really good, but I see my friends and just everywhere online, people are still playing it all the time. So, I mean, yeah, it could be just like a core of, of hardcore people playing it. But I mean, here you got the sales numbers, so it's big out there. And like Ham said, and I didn't realize that hadn't been out on Steam the previous iterations. I guess I just kind of assumed it just because I haven't really been paying attention to PC sales too much. But Steam's probably is more than likely a big factor too. You get all those people now, and you got those people that don't like to jump between launchers and different services and stuff. They kind of stick to their thing, and obviously Steam's been around for a long time, so I guess it would make sense that they're going to give Call of Duty a big boost too with their numbers.
Yeah, and I mean, feel free to foot stomp a little bit more on that with regards to Modern Warfare 2. There was a lot of doom and gloom during the beta. I think a lot of that was a lot of brand alignment of people who were trying to kind of diminish the importance of Call of Duty, right, out of fear that it would be going over to the Microsoft camp. And this is just, I've been talking a lot recently, and the other people on the Basement Radio Arcade podcast have been talking a lot recently about how just, social media gamers get it wrong, right? They look at things through colored lenses of expecting the gaming market to be exactly like they are. And it's not. Social media gamers are the gamers who tend to either spend a lot more money than the median does, or a lot less money than the median does, and they therefore kind of misunderstand a lot of the dynamics that are out there in regular gamer world. And yeah, this is kind of proof positive, right? As Modern Warfare 2 is kind of off to the races with an incredibly, and one of the things to mention right from the financial strength of Call of Duty, one of the articles I read this week in the course of doing some research on the PlayStation platform, of the top 10 best-selling games on that platform of all time, like 6 of them are Call of Duty iterations, right? And in fact, none of them are the first-party SIE games, right? On a list that goes further than that, the first time you'll hit an SIE game is like number 18, and that will be Spider-Man, right? So a fairly recent game at that. So it's just proof positive, right, of kind of, as we often mention on the show, right, you really have to look at the data and not make assumptions, because often assumptions are incorrect, right? And when numbers are actually aggregated, you find a much different dynamic than you would otherwise predict.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned on the show, too, like Call of Duty and much like Madden, kind of different animals, because those are games that people... There's other than just like the hardcore gamers, hardcore shooter people. There, there's those people out there that that's all they buy. That's all they'll buy is Call of Duty and or Madden, excuse me. And they'll do that every year. That's the one game they'll play. They'll play it for either the whole year, maybe just like a few months, 6 months or something, and then they'll jump to the next one the next year. So you always have those numbers too. It's like there's like we have us, and obviously we are like kind of entrenched in gaming, and so. But there's that other, I don't want to call it casuals, but, because I hate using that word, but it's just those people that are just kind of like the one game a year kind of a thing, or 2 games a year. So those are big numbers, obviously, because, they still sell all the time. So.
All right. Speaking of big numbers, beef jerky codes, what happened here?
Yeah, so I'll make this incredibly. This was just a curiosity. It's not really a big mover in the news cycle, but to go along with the Modern Warfare 2 news of greatest sales numbers, as I mentioned, in combination with the fact that the game is super grindy here at the outset, is people are looking desperately for any hook, crook, and means to accelerate at the pace at which they're earning XP, and so this I forget what kind of was it. I'm not a big beef jerky. Jack Links. So Jack Links apparently did a promotion where they had double XP boosts available on their products. Unfortunately, those double XP boosts were delivered as a sticker on the package, which obviously means it's external. And so people went into stores and pulled the stickers off packages, which is essentially, let me say, is a crime. You are stealing from the store a part of the product, which, normally is only accessible by you paying the entry fee of buying a bag of Jack Link's jerky. And so, there's all sorts of mention about this has happened before, and I'm like, well, if it's happened before, then maybe we should figure out a means for supply chain packaging that doesn't expose the get. Maybe you put it inside the package. I don't know. But anyway, I thought it was just curious, but also representative of the desperation that the grindiness of the game is pushing people to level up. But that also means, and by this point in Call of Duty, we should understand that rank means nothing. So, somebody may be prestige level 256. That just means that they've played a really, really lot of time in the game. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're really good, because their actual ED/KD can be very different than you would assume by somebody just because they're high ranked.
That's a really good point. And I think I'll take that not only as a fact of how many beef jerky stickers I can swipe, but also as we transition to our next game that Tao and I are going to talk about with Marvel Snap, that yes, just because you have a high rank doesn't mean you're any good. It just means you've played a lot, and I will own that. As I've started to get smacked down, as I have increased my overall level and have thought I had it figured out, and now not so much. So, Tao, you've been playing Marvel Snap. I know I missed this conversation last week. Have you been playing Marvel Snap still this week? And if so, where are you at in terms of levels? Have you picked up the battle pass? What are some of your favorite card combos?
Mainly this is all I've been playing this past week, other than yesterday I finally got down to sit down to play GTA and a little bit of Warzone also. But yeah, I just been playing this, and I've been playing it both mostly on my phone and then on PC. You can play it on Steam, which I didn't realize at first. And the Steam, unfortunately, is a little bugged for me. So if you have more than like 5 decks, which I have 8 right now, if you have more than 5 decks, like when you first go into your decks, and it's kind of like stuck in the middle of my decks. So even if you can kind of scroll to the right or left, but it like snaps back into that initial default view. So I'm kind of stuck there. So I can only use like I think 3 or 4. I think there's 4. There's like I could use 3, 4, and 5, and then I can see like just a little corner of number 2, like on the side of my screen. I can actually click on it, so I can use that one too. So I got 4 decks. So I'm not playing too much on there right now, which kind of stinks, but it's all right. But I'm at the collection level. I'm at 262 right now, which I just got to because I just realized that I can spend gold to get more challenges. Which I mean. You can spend gold to get the variant cards too, which from what I understand you can always just as you play through the game you'll just get the cards eventually anyway. So I'm probably just going to do that. So I'll just kind of do it I'll just do it the challenge way. And obviously you can buy gold with real money if you wanted to, which I'm never going to do that. But I did buy the battle pass after kind of poo-pooing on it that first week when you mentioned it. And pretty much I've gotten all the regular levels, so now I'm just doing the like the cash. I forgot what they're called.
Yeah, once you hit level 50, you're just getting either a random variant or a little bit of credits or gold.
Yeah, or gold. Yeah. That was the reason I bought the battle pass. I mentioned this last week. Was I had some money stored up in my Google store. That's why I bought it. So it only ended up being like a couple bucks that I had to pay for it. And as far as I know, you can't use the gold to buy battle passes. So it's just going to be you have to buy.
It'll be, and the new battle pass comes out tomorrow.
Yes, it does. I'm probably not going to be. I don't know. I got to see if
I know, right? I completed all of the battle pass challenges, like all the chapters and all the challenges, and I've hit all my dailies, and I'm level 80 in the battle pass at this point. Which is 30 levels over the fact that it actually matters. And now it's like just bits and pieces. And so it really does make me wonder, like, I don't find the battle pass pricing that problematic because it's very similar to what other mobile game pricing is in terms of paying $10 a month for something that has some progression to it. It really becomes, I've enjoyed my time here, but is it also something where if I buy the battle pass, do I feel like I need to keep playing because I've bought the battle pass, or do I want to keep playing because I enjoy it? So then I'm going to buy the battle pass. It's a chicken and egg type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the card you get at the battle pass. Do you know, is that exclusive to the battle pass, or will you be able to unlock that eventually? Anyways, they
have said from the beginning that they put that in the higher pools. So as you rank up in your collection level, that it will show up there eventually as well. So,
right. Do you know what your collection level is? By the way?
Yes, 369, and
wow.
I've probably I have about another 40 to 50 levels that I could increase if I wanted to, but I'm kind of just sitting on it because okay, so in the 200s I felt really confident. Like you hit the kind of mid 250 and you start getting into a different type of deck and you see some different cards. Like at your point, you're starting to see things like have you seen Bucky Barnes yet?
Yeah, saw him today. Yeah.
Yep. But now as you get into like 350, then you start seeing things like Shang-Chi, and who destroys anything above a 9. So there's different tiers as you kind of move through your collection level. And so I think in some ways, which I appreciate, it makes a whole lot of sense. Like when you're at the bottom of that tier and you're just starting to unlock some of those and you're playing against people that have a lot more unlocked, you're getting smacked down a lot more than you were when you had everything unlocked in the pool that you were playing in. But it also incentivizes you to go try to unlock some of those. So I think that's where, but I've also noticed, like looking at the progression in the collection levels, once you hit 500. There's windows where every other collection level or every other 4 collection levels you unlock a new card, and then it becomes every 8 collection levels, and you hit 500, and then it becomes, you're getting just caches again for a while until you get up into another couple hundred there. So there's definitely some tiers in its progression.
Yeah, I just unlocked Killmonger. Was I think my last really new card, I believe. Yeah, because I think
that's a good one. Yeah, where it takes out all number 1s. Yep.
There's all number 1s. Yeah, so kind of like the little brother of that of Shang-Chi. So, but yeah, no, but this game is like I mentioned last week. It's just like I'm getting like super into it. Like I said, I've got 8 decks, like 8 different decks. Because at first I was just like making decks like, okay, I got like 4 or 5, 6 different like new cards. So I was like, I'll start a deck with those, and then kind of add in the other ones. But now I've started actually doing like decks around things like destroying cards and like power up level cards and stuff like that. So I'm starting to. I want to do more decks like that. Just kind of doing it around a theme instead of just because I got the card.
You destroy deck where you've got Nova and Bucky Barnes and Carnage and Wolverine in it probably as well.
Yeah. Apocalypse, yeah, because he can come back more powerful stuff. Yeah, so it's very interesting the way, and I know, there's probably been like the stuff like this, like I mentioned last week in the past, like other card games, but I think just because it's the Marvel property, it's just interesting to know more.
And it's shorter games. It's a smaller deck. You're not building a 20 some card deck. It's only 12 cards. So there's that piece to it as well, and that I think as we've both talked about, like, because you're battling over locations that have a variety of conditions, it is not simply kind of playing a meta against one other person in the type of cards that they might play. That, yes, you can kind of like the destroy deck or some of the other types of decks, or like the zoo deck where you have a number of single number 1 power cards that can get buffed. But because of all the different locations, that can still throw a wrinkle in things. Like you could still have turn 7 or end on turn 4 or negative every turn you lose a power here. So there's a lot of variety that can happen.
I think the worst one I think I've seen, I can't remember which card it was, but it destroys the other 2. It only leaves 1 area on the map that you can play on, and it destroys the other 2. I forgot what that was. I don't know if that was Galactus or something like that.
Yeah, there's a card of Galactus that he destroys 2 of the locations. Yep.
Okay, yeah. I think there's actually a space too that does that. I think
so. Yes, and I've run into what's the Ergo, the living planet that plays your cards. Yeah, Ego. Plays your cards for you. So
yeah,
I've had that happen once as well, where it totally just takes over the game type of thing.
Agatha Harkness does that too. She just plays. I was like, what the heck is going on? I didn't realize that at 2 at first because I missed the description when I first saw it. So I was just like, what the heck? And then I clicked on her like at the end of the match. I was like, oh, okay.
Okay, Hamp, jump in here. Either get us off of this Marvel card train or ask a question if you have some. But let's keep moving on, because I'm pretty sure Tao and I could talk about this further. And in a few weeks or in a little while, when Marvel Snap has their player versus player, where you can play friends against each other, as they've announced, I'm sure we'll come back to this as well. But let's move on to some other things.
So I did have one question for both of you. A couple weeks ago, DB, when you first brought this to the podcast, you mentioned that you were playing it at the gas pump while you were filling it, right? Is this a game that is occupying your gaming time that's in the gaps between the tackles? Or is this a game that is now competing for your at-home, on-prem time that you could be spending on your big metal gaming hardware?
Yes, it is. It is competing. If I'm not playing, I mean, I am still. Yeah, it's competing for it, right? I will play my my game of Madden. I'll poke in a few here or there, but if it is preventing me from diving into a big single player game because I could be unlocking my next. I will say this. if it happens to come at around a time when the new missions unlock, then chances are it's going to occupy my gaming time over a console. It also helps that my son has been playing Overwatch 2 on the PC a whole lot more than I have. So if you've seen me on PC playing Overwatch 2, that is him. So I have not had a lot of PC access. So it's also been pretty easy to jump in and have some Marvel Snap access there.
So, a quick question for you, DB, unless you had something else, Hamp.
Well, I wanted to hear your response to that question too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like I was hardcore playing No Man's Sky on the Switch like before this, and I still would have been, but now I'm literally just playing this game the whole time now. And like I said, except for this past weekend when I actually had more than just like an hour or two that I can play a game, where I was able to jump into GTA and Warzone. I've been playing this, and because Warzone takes so long to get into a match, at least on PC. A little bit on Xbox. I played a little bit on Xbox. It seems PC takes a lot longer. I've literally been playing this game like in between rounds because I'm just waiting to get into a match. So, yeah, definitely it's taken over my time. And then, so what have you used your gold for, or have you used your gold? Are you just saving it up right now, DB?
I've got 2,500 in gold. Yeah, I think I've only spent gold to unlock a couple new missions. Like ran out of missions and I wanted to get my weeklies in. Yeah. So I've paid 120 in gold to do that. But even then, I did that the first week. I haven't done it since because there was still plenty of time to get my missions in to get all 25 weekly missions. So at this point, I'm just kind of banking it. Yeah. I mean, it really is. It seems like you're using gold either for missions, for card variants because you like the artwork on a card, or credits. And you can really get enough credits doing other things. So yeah, I'm kind of holding on to it. Are you spending it on anything?
Just the challenges. Yeah. There hasn't been any like card variants that there was one Doctor Strange one that actually looked really cool. Actually, I think it might have been like I don't know if it was or a copy of a comic cover at some point. It was kind of like that 70s style art like back in the day. So, but I was like, I'm just gonna keep it. So yeah, I'm just gonna hoard it for now. So
okay, Hamp, take us home here with some more. Let's swing from card strategy games back to FPSs. So go ahead and take us home. Gentlemen, I need to jump out here because I have a dog that is pawing at me that if I don't want to clean up some bathroom, I'm going to have to take it outside. So I'm going to let you guys finish up here. If I get back on the loop, excellent. But if not, I will follow up online because I want to hear how you ended up back into Cold War after all your time in Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah, and I'll keep this pretty simple. The only reason I wound up at Cold War and the only reason I put this in the rundown too was to swing back a little bit more to talk again about Modern Warfare 2. In addition to some of the things that I mentioned, part of the problem with Modern Warfare 2 is that it has also been suffering from a number of bugs, as we talked a lot about Madden bugs. It has been suffering from a lot of bugs on multiple platforms. So I've seen them both on PlayStation 5 and on PC. I don't think I actually saw them on Xbox. And I haven't been getting hit. There's a number of kind of classic recurring bugs that are out there in the wild that are kind of the zeitgeist of what people are talking about. I have not been exposed to them as much. People on Steam have noted, I think, more instability than the BattleNet version in terms of them constantly crashing out of matches. On PC and on PlayStation 5, I've experienced a number of lockups. And actually, I wound up back on Black Ops Cold War because on PlayStation 5, I was being disconnected from the servers, both in matches and while waiting to get into matches. And then when I would get bounced all the way back out to the main screen and would try and get back in, I would just constantly be met with the disconnected from server message. And so because I was kind of in that Call of Duty mode of just wanting to play that game or that style of game, I was like, let me just load Black Ops Cold War, and then like if I can't get into servers like 3 times on Modern Warfare, I'm just gonna go play Black Ops Cold War for a while. And I also wanted to have a comparator to see if it was a BattleNet/Activision network problem, or just a per title server problem. It appeared that it was a per title server problem because I didn't experience those same problems in Black Ops Cold War. So, and then the only other game I've been playing is also been playing a little bit of Wolfenstein: The New Order on PC. This was just wanting to, periodically dip into something to get my value out of Game Pass. So, again, this whole series of Wolfenstein games by Machine Games, just as I talked a couple weeks ago, I think, about the Old Blood. They are games that kind of, seem to be standing the test of time, at least for now. Some of these games are back in like 2014, 2016. They look fine to me from a graphical perspective. Again, another game that's capped at 60 frames per second on PC, so I was a little disappointed about that because other teams who have released legacy games have found ways to go back and patch those games and uncork that frame rate. So, but that being said, the game is still pretty fun, pretty bombastic, kind of James Bond style, or maybe I should say Saving Private Ryan style, like opening sequence. That makes for a lot of excitement. So, had some fun playing that. Tao, anything else we need to cover, or any questions about those last 2 games?
No, nothing right now. I just want to mention I might have a new game that I'll mention next week. So hopefully I can report on that. Little tease there.
Okay, very cool. So that is going to do it for us for tonight. Next week, for episode 267, I will be hosting. The other 2 gentlemen will be in the co-pilot seat, backing me up. So that's going to do it for us for tonight. Until next time, for anybody who happened to swing through the for anybody who happened to swing through the live stream, we appreciate you. For anybody out there catching this episode in its archived video on demand format on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube, we appreciate you as well. Please feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can just receive a notification whenever we post new content. We will see you back again next week. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there. Play the games that you like. Come here to talk about the games that you love. Once again, my name has been Hamp from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube. My co-host, Towmaster99. Until next time, good night, good luck, and good gaming. That's going to do it for us. We're out of here.
Feeling in my bones, I can feel it in my veins. Hands in the sky, I can feel the winds of change. You live and you learn, and I hope I've seen enough to make something right and make up for what I've lost. I was down, but things are looking up. I wanna get high on you, caught by surprise by you. Want you to